As we mentioned, the Olympic Games officially kick off tomorrow, and with Tokyo operating under a pandemic state of emergency, it's shaping up to be a very different experience. And COVID is not the only concern. This could be the hottest games ever. So what should athletes and viewers expect? Tonight we're joined by Patrick Chang, a three-time figure skating world champion who competed in 3 Olympic Games, winning gold in Pyeongchang in 2018.
Big shot by Waneek Miller.
Waneek Miller co-captained the first Canadian Olympic women's water polo team at the 2000 Games in Sydney. And Vicki Hall is a Calgary-based sports writer. She's covering her 6th Olympic Games. Well, really excited to be speaking to all three of you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, how are you?
Waneek, let me start with you. No spectators in the stands in Tokyo, no contact with families, no socializing in the athletes' village. What impact do you think this is going to have on the members of Team Canada?
You know, I can't imagine an Olympic like this because I know that, the meeting people, the having family, that's a big part of an athlete's Olympic experience. But I do, everybody's going into these games with this understanding, knowing this is a really unprecedented games. It's like we're living in a time that is just unlike any other. So, mentally they probably prepared for this. But I think, it doesn't seem like the fulsome games that, many of them have probably dreamed about for their whole lives.
And Patrick, as I mentioned, you've been at 3 games, including here in Vancouver, 2 in foreign countries. What do you think this difference in Tokyo, the impact it will have on the athletes?
Look, part of the Olympics is having your family there, having your friends there, supporting you every step of the way. So this might be the most challenging event for these athletes, but on the other hand, I know that amateur athletes, Olympic level athletes are always up to the challenge and they're looking forward to winning a medal. So I think for the initial shock will be there, but quickly they'll get into their routine of training and then performing on the playing field.
You know, Patrick, I think of figure skating and the relationship that the skaters must have with the audience, the surge of adrenaline when you hear that applause. Could you imagine competing in an empty arena?
No, I don't want to. It's a very scary idea to be performing in an empty stadium. And as an individual athlete, you rely on that energy. You feed off of the energy and the audience, the energy the audience gives you. So I think for maybe the team athletes, the athletes that are in softball or field hockey, I think those sports you might have better support and you really can lean on your teammates.
And Vicki, let me bring you into this conversation. As a reporter, among the many things you've covered has been the NHL during the pandemic. And so in that case, how did the empty stands, do you think, affect the game?
I think it was tough, especially for the athletes at first. And even as fans at home, it was kind of weird to get used to it. But I think it doesn't really affect the people so much at home. The viewing experience will be the same. It's the athletes. And as Patrick said, especially the individual athletes who might have problems. And those who draw their energy from the crowd, like being at the Olympics, the energy is like nothing that I've been around before. So without that, I do think that is going to affect some of the athletes that we might expect to do well otherwise.
Waneek, I can't even imagine the kind of pressure that Olympians feel. You have that one moment every 4 years, and on top of everything else this time around, athletes may be thinking in the back of their mind, what happens if I test positive for COVID, even if it's a false positive? Again, imagine, how would that add to the pressures athletes feel?
I mean, having all of us having lived through a time where, any of us testing positive or even getting a sniffle caused anxiety. Here's the Olympic Games. Here is the culmination of almost like their life's work, right? And they're getting ready to compete. In a team sport, I can speak from, that perspective, knowing that you're an integral part of this, like this larger machine that is going forward to try to win a medal. I can't even imagine that kind of stress. There's a stress of injury. There's a stress of, all these illness that can happen at the Olympic Games. But this is something that really you almost have no control over, and other than locking yourself in, in your room. And, we've already heard of athletes testing positive, like a member of the U.S. women's gymnastics team. So what an incredible stress that I can't even imagine. And I know that they prepped for it, but can you really be ready? I don't know. We're going to see incredible athletes rise to the occasion in these Olympic Games.
And that is the essence of the Olympics, incredible athletes rising to the occasion. So let's finish with this. I only have about 30 seconds for each of you. And Vicki, let me begin with you. What are you looking forward to in these games?
I'm looking forward to seeing female athletes shine on the ultimate stage. That's the big thing. We haven't seen much of them.
Patrick?
Looking forward to those new sports: skateboarding, surfing, speed climbing, and of course the women's soccer team.
And Waneek?
Well, I'm really looking forward to Jillian Weir, a Mohawk Onyankahaga athlete competing in the women's hammer throw. Women's water polo finally back there after a long break. And I'm looking forward to watching Under the Grass in the 100 meters.
Yeah, no kidding. Listen, great talking to all three of you, and I'm going to get a chance to connect with you later on in the games. Thank you.
Thank you so much.